point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the astonishing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Every day I go on the internet and find what news I can about energy and climate change and a few related issues. Like if, I might record something if I see that it has to do with survivability of honeybees, you know, or something like that. But
well, it's all connected.
It's all connected, yes. And I put together 10 to 15 articles, each represented by a synopsis.
It's on your blog.
On the blog, 50 words or so, and a link to the original article, and I post them on a blog, geoharvey.com, and Tom and I get the best 20, 21 articles from the week and talk about them in this show.
Basically, we do.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I read them.
Yes. We're going to start with entries to the blog that started on May 2nd. And if you want to go to geoharvey.com and take a look at these things, you can click on the calendar for the date. We'll try to keep you apprised of what date we're reading from. And you can go to the original article by going to the link and find your way off to a more complete understanding of what's going on.
Well, about this time I usually say that some of these things are very interesting and in-depth articles.
Yeah, they are.
They could stand on their own for a show sometimes.
Yes.
And I'll try to remark, you know, as we go through,
yeah,
that some of them might be particularly noteworthy or useful to look up.
Yeah. This first one is one that I think is kind of fun just because of the picture.
Yeah, we got a picture.
We
I'll
do
bring
indeed.
the picture up.
And let's see what we've got there.
I think I'll start the clock running too. That'd be nice.
Oh, okay. Not that it much
You
matters.
got the picture.
There you go.
Why, Joe? Well, I think he's got it.
And the thing that I find interesting about this picture, these are climate protesters. And
they're in London.
They're in London, and you'll see that a number of them, like the girl in the lower left corner, and the young woman who is just up and to the right from her, and then a couple of young ladies over on the right side of the picture, including one with red, white, and blue hair, are gaping. So what do you got for a title for this thing?
UK Parliament declares climate change emergency.
Members of Parliament of the UK have approved a motion to declare an environment and climate emergency. This proposal, which demonstrates the will of the Commons on the issue, but does not legally compel the government to act, was approved without a vote. Now, these demonstrators in the picture were motivated by the school strikes and so forth that Greta Thunberg had kind of been the, what would you call her? A leading.
She's an activist. She's doing
an
what
activist.
activists do very well.
She's at the age of 16. She is all of a sudden in the last year become a big name in climate activism, and
she's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Nominated for the Nobel Prize. So you know these protesters had been demanding that the Parliament declare a climate emergency, and my guess is that just a second or two before this photograph was taken,
somehow they got the news.
Somehow they got the news, and since they're all looking in the same direction, somewhat elevated, I would think that they are probably looking at one of those signs that carries the news on the side of a building.
A couple of quick takeaways. This declaration of emergency was one of the key demands put to the government by the environmental activist group Extinction Rebellion.
Yes, Extinction.
Who we've spoken about.
Right.
And Labor leader Jeremy Corbyn
Yes.
said, and this is a quote, "This can set off a wave of action from governments around the globe."
Well, actually,
it is happening.
Yeah, it happens that this UK declaration, and we reported these earlier ones last week, this follows a similar declaration by the Parliament of Scotland. and another one by the Welsh Assembly. So
which is all part of the UK.
it's all part of the UK, but you know, these are governments within the UK that have taken a stand on this.
Now, more about Corbyn here, the rest of his quote. We pledge to make clear to President Donald Trump that he cannot ignore international agreements and action on the climate crisis.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying his best.
Put the picture back up, would you please, Tom?
By Jove, I could do that.
Okie doke. If you look at the young woman in the lower left corner of the screen, and slightly to the right of her, you'll see a green sign.
Oh, I see it.
And the sign says Green New Deal. And, you know, it tells
Good
you-
catchword.
Yeah. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives from New York State.
Yep.
And this Green New Deal thing that she and Senator Markey from Massachusetts started going has turned into a worldwide phenomenon.
Well, it's getting legs. I mean, people see this, you know, and they like the phrase.
Yeah, they do.
And they're coming up with their own Green New Deal.
Yeah, and
New York State has a Green New Deal.
New York State has one, and Los Angeles has one, and I've seen these signs. Is that, you know, I probably take a look at perhaps 350 headlines every day, and I see a lot of pictures and so forth, and that I've seen the Green New Deal spelled out in English on signs from nations where the native language is not English. And it seems to me that I've seen it in Japan, possibly in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. In English.
In English,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of places they put
Sure.
Signs up in English, and this is a big deal. So, should we move
Yeah, let's
on?
move on to the next one.
That one, by the way, was from BBC.
This one is sort of repeats something that we've talked about already.
Yeah,
Keystone State goes full climate change with new action plan.
and there's more to this story too.
Well, we talked about Erie.
Yeah, we did, but there's more to this
There's
story.
more to this. We're going to hit this about twice before
Yeah,
the show's over.
this particular item is from Clean Technica. In the latest climate action development, Pennsylvania has just cast off the fossil fuel mantle of the past and taken up the sparkling green sword of the future. It sounds like some kind of action thriller. By signing on to the U.S. Climate Alliance, the alliance now counts 23 states and Puerto Rico among its members, and we will get back to Pennsylvania in this show.
Well, this is an in-depth article. It's worth looking up. This is one of the better ones
Yep.
here. And there's an interesting backstory here.
Yeah.
Because this is Pennsylvania.
Yeah?
Pennsylvania is one of the nation's top 5 coal-producing states.
Yes.
And the only state from the coal-producing region of Appalachia to join this alliance.
And not only that, but there's a lot of fracking going on in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there is. Absolutely.
Although
Absolutely.
a lot of people,
It's under protest.
oh yeah, and a lot of people,
Big time.
a lot of people who are in areas where fracking is going on are very unhappy about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were promised large amounts of money on
Never got it.
leases, and they never got it. So you know, Pennsylvania is an interesting. It's an interesting state to watch. Okay, should we
Well,
go
this
on?
is an interesting article. I've got all sorts of notes on it, and I'm not going to even mention because I think you should look them up yourself.
Okay.
Oh, we got another picture here.
We
though,
do indeed.
and we're coming back home.
This is one of those pictures that I find kind of infuriating.
Why?
Well, because, you know, everything is so clean, and that's what
Well,
happens in
that's-
every Tesla
well-
ad. It's like, I can't put one of those batteries in my house. My floor isn't clean enough.
Well, you can tell by that room that it was made for a teenager.
Oh.
And you can believe that this is probably the only time in the past 2 years that room has been that clean.
Okay.
Because it's in a cellar. You can see what they've done there.
Yeah, it's in a cellar with a
It's a
family
nice little
room or
room,
something.
you know,
yeah.
and the guitar is the giveaway, though.
Yeah,
That's
well,
a
I think the
teenager.
guitar actually belongs in the next room over.
Oh, it
Nevertheless,
does.
this is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
Green Mountain Power
Ooh.
plans 100% renewables by 2030
This
with
is-
the help from Tesla. This is a
Here in
significant.
Vermont.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
a significant article.
Green Mountain Power says it wants to speed up its move to 100% renewable energy, and it has developed a plan to get to zero emissions no later than 2030.
That's quick.
The plan calls for achieving 100% carbon-free energy by 2025 and to be 100% renewable by 2030. Now,
This is a good scheme by Green Mountain Power.
I think it is, yeah. But you know, it's very achievable by Green Mountain Power
sure.
too, because almost all of its energy is already emission-free. And the reason why it's 0% carbon energy by 2025 and the reason, and then 100% renewable, 100% carbon-free by 2025 and 100% renewable by 2030 is because it is operating with under contract with, what's the...
Hydro-Quebec.
No. It's nuclear plant in New Hampshire, Seabrook.
Yep.
It's operating with a contract with Seabrook.
And that's expiring.
That contract will expire, and what they're saying is that when they get off that contract, they will not replace it with nuclear power or any carbon-based power.
Well, the significance of what Green Mountain Power is doing is they're making a sweet deal to their customers for $30 a month to get these batteries.
Yes.
And the backstory is Green Mountain Power will be able to use these batteries as part of their grid.
That's what they've been doing.
And it's brilliant, really.
The advantage to the customer is that the batteries can be charged at very low rates.
At 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's sleeping.
And then they can be used when the demand is high. But another thing, and this is important, is that if the power grid goes down for any length of time, that battery is going to be providing a significant amount of electricity to a house.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
You know,
it's a very clever program.
Yeah.
It's kind of a win-win situation.
Yep. There were 4 times when I went without power in the house that I lived in for a period of upwards of a week.
Yeah, you've told me that.
Yeah. Twice it was in Massachusetts, down by Plymouth, in a town that had a significant population. You know, this was not an isolated incident. But one of those times was Hurricane Bob, and the other was the perfect storm. And then I moved up to Winchester, New Hampshire, and in Winchester,
it followed you.
It followed me. Well, it was winter storms in Winchester, not hurricanes. And there were 2 times within 10 years when we were without power for for a week or more. And what I had, the first time I had kind of warning that something was amiss. There was a weather thing saying we were going to get 3 inches of snow, but the night before they had predicted 3 inches of snow and we got 14. And I thought, if we're going to get 3 inches of snow like yesterday's 3 inches of snow, we're in trouble. So I stopped by the hardware store and got a generator and took it home and hooked it up, and by golly, it was running that night. And that's what got us going. And I want to tell you, running on a generator for a week is a pain. It's noisy.
I would imagine.
Oh, it's awful.
Noisy, smelly.
Yeah.
And you got to keep refilling the tank.
You have to keep refilling it. Yeah. Okay, we are up to Friday, May 3rd, and we have an item from Sierra Magazine.
This is an interesting one.
It is indeed.
100% clean energy, the new normal?
Yes. Nevada and Washington State joining a growing number of states and local jurisdictions taking action to build an equitable 100% clean energy economy, further propelling a national movement of climate and clean energy leadership that has emerged despite Trump administration policies. And if you think about this, Tom, it explains what the fossil fuels people are so scared of.
Well, of course. I mean, they've got a right to be scared, really.
They do indeed.
And it's economics that's going to kill them.
That's right. You know, there was that article, and I think we're going to be talking about it, saying that Siemens was spinning off its power generation.
I read that
stuff.
article. Yep.
Okay. If you look at that closely, and I think we're going to be dealing with that. I don't remember.
I'm not going to bet you that we're not.
Okay.
But something we could certainly be talking.
Siemens is spinning this thing off.
That's the German General Electric.
It is. And their gas power, and it's not just burning gas, it's processing gas, getting gas and so forth. Anything that they're doing is going into this, and also their wind turbines are also going into the same business. They're getting rid of the whole thing.
Yeah, yep.
I don't think the business would survive without those wind turbines. The thing is, the numbers. They had a 17% reduction in gross revenues, and that 17% loss, 17% loss, resulted in a 75% reduction in profits.
Wow.
So
that hurts.
you see what happens here is you've got a margin. You're not going to operate a business on nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you have to pay for your office employees. You got to pay your office.
They've got fixed expenses.
They've got fixed
no
expenses.
matter what.
Okay, 100% clean energy. We're going to see more and more people getting onto this bandwagon, and we will talk about this more during the show. And as they do, a bigger and bigger percentage of the American population is saying, we're not going to use your product anymore. And that means they are not just going to decline. If we actually do achieve 100% reduction in carbon by 2040 or 2050, which I believe we will,
Yeah.
they're not going to see a gradual reduction in business. They're going to see suffering, 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 and bankruptcy.
That's a possibility. It's a strong possibility.
Well, they've got to come up with a different business plan or take over the government.
Well, they seem to be getting into that different business plan because they are
Some of
getting
them.
into renewables.
Some of them are
Some of
taking
them.
over the government.
And they'd like to.
They are. I mean, Donald Trump is in office, in my opinion, because the Koch brothers and their minions put $1 billion
Well, it
into
certainly helped.
They announced it in January of 2015 that they were going to put a huge amount of money into electing the people they wanted so that
Which
the
they
government
did.
would be run the way they wanted. And they achieved that. And, you know, what we're seeing now is a constitutional crisis because of it. Okay.
Well, as I said, it's the new normal.
Yep.
And there's a quick takeaway here.
Yeah.
Broad bipartisan public support continues to soar.
Yes.
One
it
in
does.
5 people in the U.S. now live in a place committed to 100% clean energy.
1 in 5.
1 in 5.
20%.
Yeah.
That means
And that's growing.
That means a 20% reduction in their gross revenues. That hurts.
Well, that's 70 million people. That's significant.
And that's just the start, as we will see later on. Okay, should we go on?
There's a sentence here that says a
Okay,
lot.
do it.
We all gain when clean and renewable energy powers us forward.
I guess we do.
I guess we do. It's a nice picture here.
Except for a couple of guys in
That are heavily invested in fossil fuels.
and haven't got the time that it takes to come up with a new business plan.
And they don't like windmills.
They don't like windmills because they're threatening to them, and the threat is not at health.
Well, I think one of them is complaining about the windmills in Cape Cod.
Actually, that's the brother.
Yeah,
that-
that's the one that's the third brother.
That's another brother who isn't really, he was run out of the business, as I understand.
Was he really?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we got a picture coming
We
up
do,
here.
and this is an item from Clean Technica.
And in case you don't know what that is, that's coral.
Yeah, and the thing at the top is not something that is farther away. It's actually a reflection of the coral from the surface of the water.
The bottom of the upper surface.
It's the bottom of the upper surface.
Yeah, right,
The
right.
water is reflecting, and it's doing it underwater just like it would above, but it looks kind of weird because there's little ripples in there. Okay, what do you have for a
what
title?
it says here is 6 signs of hope for the ocean.
And this-
So news isn't always all
No,
bad.
it isn't. It's easy to lose sight of the good news amid a barrage of negative stories about the threats facing the ocean. We see everything from growing plastic pollution to dying coral reefs. Increasingly, however, there is a lot to celebrate when you look more closely at ocean-related developments. I'm sure
This
that you
is
have
an
something
interesting
to say.
article.
Yeah, it is.
It's Clean Technica, and they usually put up some pretty good articles.
They usually do.
And I'll read a quick sentence I wrote there. Oh, this came from the article. Over the past few years, the ocean has been rising rapidly on the international agenda.
Yes.
Not just the ocean itself, but on the
Yes.
agenda. Powered by the recognition that we need major change to secure ocean health as a basis for generating ocean wealth. Okay, now governments and industries are joining forces for ocean solutions, and there's a list there. It's a big list. The oceans and the climate are inseparable. It's all one ecosystem.
Yes, that's right. You know, it's when I think about this, I think about the fact that, well, the first time I heard of climate change was anecdotal. It was from a teacher who had been told by his elders in the place where he grew up in the northern Midwest that the winters were not as cold as they used to be, and that there was
That's
not
a long
as much
time
snow.
ago.
That's right. That was when I was in 5th grade. That was probably about
Ancient history.
1955 or 56. I heard of climate change. And
Wow.
2 years later, I think it was National Geographic did a television special in which they talked about the fact that all the glaciers were melting. So this is going back a long ways. Well, in the early 1970s, I had a friend who was probably 50 years older than I was, who told me that the thing he was worried most about was acidification of the ocean, which the people of the 21st century would have to deal with. And he could not see how we were going to deal with that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The ocean is acidifying.
And it's
CO2 creates carbonic acid,
That's right.
which raises the pH
It
of
raises the pH.
the ocean.
And by the way, carbonic acid is the stuff that decomposes into water and carbon dioxide that makes soda water fizz.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us that.
You knew that the
Oh, but it's something I forgot.
the-
Well, let's
the
move along
peop-
here. We got an interesting picture coming
We do,
up.
and we're still on May 3rd, which is still Friday, and we have an interesting picture coming up, and this is from BBC News.
I'll get this picture up there.
Yeah, do that.
It looks like a model airplane, but it's not.
It's a kite.
Well, it is an airplane. It's a kite.
Sort of,
and it can fly.
It has 8 things that are referred to as propellers, except they don't propel it.
Well, sometimes they do. That's the interesting thing about it. They can run this thing around.
Oh, okay.
But basically, they're generators.
Okay, they are generators, yes. What do you got for title?
Aha. Could high-flying drones power your home one day?
A growing number of companies believe that using tethered kites and drones provides a viable way to harness stronger and more consistent high-altitude winds that just keep on blowing. Could this tech release wind power's full potential, or will it always remain a niche solution?
Well, part of what's going on here is it's a known fact that as you get higher, the winds get stronger.
Yeah, and more
Okay,
consistent.
and you know, a 600-foot mast for a regular wind turbine, that's pretty big.
Yeah, but it doesn't take it as high as these things go.
That's the whole point. These things are going up considerably higher.
Yeah.
And they, as I mentioned, they can fly around to where they're picking up the most wind. You know, they're not just hanging in there like a kite.
Okay. Okay.
So wind power generated, well, I don't think I even read the title, did I? Could high-flying drones power your home one day?
I think you did.
Well, then now you got something to say.
I've already read it, Tom. I did read it.
Oh, well, wind power generated 5 times more electricity in 2018 than in 2008. 5 times.
Yeah, 5 times as much.
Okay. Yet, it still accounts for only about 4% of the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of potential here.
Yep. Okay, we are up to Saturday, May 4th, and an item here from Clean Technica.
Uh-huh.
And this is a good item to talk about.
Brain dead Zuckerberg hires Daily Caller Group to fact-check climate news. Daily Caller.
Yeah.
Well, well.
Thanks to Joe Romm at Think Progress, we learned that Facebook has hired checkyourfact.com to fact-check information on climate change. Checkyourfact.com, Romm says, is, quote, an arm of the conservative anti-science media site, The Daily Caller, end quote.
Well, the Daily Caller, according to the article, is an extreme right-wing organization co-founded by famed Fox News talking head Tucker Carlson.
Well, I want to tell
Okay,
you.
and backed by major conservative donors, including Charles and David Koch.
There's a couple. I did a little research on this.
Did you?
And actually, my exposure to the Daily Caller goes back to the time that I started the blog. Actually,
So you know,
before
Daily
I
Caller.
started the blog, I was working for the New England Coalition and doing a daily email, which I
Okay.
still do. I still do the daily email.
Yeah, I get it.
But
I usually don't look at it. But I get it.
nobody else does either. But you see, the thing is, as I went through this business of climate news, I noticed that all news media dealing with climate could be broken into two groups. One
Okay.
of which reported, whatever they were reporting, and the other of which was very consistent in denying any value to renewable power, in denying climate change, and it just went on and on
Kind of
and on.
orchestrated, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looked like it was orchestrated. It was a bunch of sites. One was the Heritage Foundation, the
Okay.
Cato Institute, the Daily Caller, kind of marginally in this, but still much more in it was Breitbart. And these organizations have a very consistent approach. And I was really curious, why do they say things that are so different than what is said in the rest of the media? And of course, the rest of the media disagree about things, but not the way these people do.
These were
because the
marching in
numbers,
lockstep.
yeah, and the numbers that they had were just way off. Other people who don't like wind turbines, for example, use their statistics. These guys got a different set of statistics that are consistent just to them.
We just talked about something like
Yeah.
that. They made up this huge number.
Well, they weren't using statistics that were made up.
Okay.
They were using statistics that
That
they
were
were
selected.
citing. They were citing the source. The source was, for example, the U.S. Department of Energy.
Yeah.
If you looked, you
It was
found
5
it.
years old.
But
Yeah.
they would say it came from the U.S. DOE, but they wouldn't tell you where to find it in the U.S. DOE materials.
Okay.
And when you did find it, you discovered that it was 4 years old. And it was the same. It was the same old thing. It was like,
propaganda going on.
Whoa. We're in an environment where the prices of solar power, wind power, batteries, and so forth are reducing so fast that any information that's a year old, you've got to regard as obsolete. And these guys are picking information that's 4 years old and saying, see, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Because 4 years ago, it was too expensive. And the price today is half of what it was 4 years ago. And they do it. Anyway, so I knew about the Daily Caller, and I went to find out more about checkyourfact.com. And I went to checkyourfact.com and started looking for information on climate change. And you know what?
What?
For practical purposes, they don't have any. They don't even talk about it. They don't deny it. They just don't talk about it.
Okay.
So I think that Joe Rahm is wrong here. Zuckerberg has signed on a bunch of different fact-checking sites, and what had happened was people on the right were complaining. These are all left-wing sites. So he said, okay, I'll give you a right-wing site.
Okay.
But the right-wing site is not fact-checking information on climate change. It's not doing anything on climate change.
It's just doing what it's told to do.
And my suspicion is the reason why it isn't doing anything on climate change is because anything it says about climate change is going to be either absolutely wrong or working against the interests of the people who pay for it.
Yeah, the funders. There's a quote from the article.
Yeah.
It is beyond outrageous that in 2019, the world's largest social media site is still partnering with climate science deniers.
Yes.
Interesting.
Well,
Well,
I felt like I knew why they were partnering with science.
Let's take a look at a lovely little plant here.
A lovely little plant. That plant, by the way, was the caption in the. This came from Digital Journal, and the Digital Journal caption said that was a coal-burning power plant, but it's not a coal-burning power plant. That plant is where coal is being loaded, I believe.
Well, it doesn't look like a power plant, so it looks more like a mine.
It looks like the loading stuff for mine. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you know, not very far from here, on the way down into Massachusetts, there used to be a coal-burning power station, small one,
Yeah.
right next to Route 5. You could drive right by it and see it from Route 5.
Okay.
And it's still there.
Yes.
It's still working, but it's not running on coal anymore.
Yeah, it's probably running on
Natural gas.
Well, where is it? In Greenfield?
Well, it's on the way to Greenfield, yeah.
I'll bet it's working on biomass. I don't know that there's a natural
Well,
gas
it might
pipeline
be, but
down there.
I don't know what. I really don't know what it's running on, but it's not running on coal.
Yeah.
Because you
Okay.
used to drive by, you'd see all the coal cars, and they're
Yeah.
not there anymore.
What do you got for a title on this, Tom?
Scott Pruitt fails to stop Indiana's move to renewable energy.
Indiana's third largest utility analyzed the economics of its power plants and decided to shift away from coal-fired plants to renewable resources. Coal companies hired former EPA chief Scott Pruitt to fight back. Pruitt failed, according to a post at Utility Dive. So Pruitt tried to get them to see the light and continue using coal, or for that matter, to do something about natural gas and not go to renewable resources, but that's what they're doing.
Well, the Indiana Coal Council, the people that hired Pruitt, they used Pruitt to appeal to the state legislators directly, urging them to insert language into the state budget that would prevent Indiana utilities from replacing coal plants with renewables. That didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
It just didn't happen.
Yep. And which is not a surprise, despite the fact
Kind of a sneaky act.
yeah, people don't realize how much coal is mined in Indiana and Illinois.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
They're big coal producing states.
Okay, our next item is from Reuters.
Reuters, yes. A U.S. House passes first climate bill in a decade.
U.S. House of Representatives passed its first climate change bill in a decade, voting 231 to 190 to require that the Trump administration keep the U.S. as a party to the Paris Climate Agreement.
Read that again.
Well, they voted 231 to 190 to require the Trump administration to keep the U.S. in the Paris Climate Agreement. That would require the administration to set climate goals in accordance with the agreement. Actually, I don't think it would, because I think the goals were already set.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, the Donald Trump and a bunch of people in the Republican Party, and I'm going to remind people, I voted for Richard Nixon twice, I voted for Gerald Ford, I voted for Ronald Reagan twice, I voted for George Bush twice, I voted for Bob Dole, for George W. Bush. This is not politics talking. But the leadership in the Republican Party wanted us out of the Paris Climate Accord. And they did that, in my opinion, because they were paid to do it. That was one of the things.
I never bet against that.
Yeah, the people in the so-called conservative wing, which I don't regard as conservative at all.
Not by the traditional definitions.
No, not at all. And you know, I'm one of those. In the last election,
Yeah.
I couldn't stomach the idea of voting for Hillary, and I couldn't. I actually
Neither could I.
I actually resigned my life membership in the National
Yeah,
Rifle
you said that,
Association
yeah.
because they endorsed Donald Trump. I couldn't vote for Trump, so I voted for a person who I could look at and I could say, if you like Theodore Roosevelt as an example of a conservative American president, this is the guy. And who is the guy? Bernie Sanders. The closest I could get. And he's close to Theodore Roosevelt, amazingly close.
He scares Wall Street to death.
Well, I'll tell you what he is. He's a Democrat, small d.
Yeah.
Which Hillary is not.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is not, and the Republicans are not, and half the people
Democrats
half the
aren't.
people in the Democratic Party are not. Okay, he believes in democracy, and I'm not sure that even half the people in the Congress believe in democracy today.
Well, the takeaway here is many of the Democratic candidates hoping to challenge Trump in the 2020 presidential election have made climate change a top-tier issue of their campaigns. They have all backed re-entering the U.S. into the Paris Climate Agreement.
Okay, now, Tom, we're falling behind here, so we're going to have to move.
Well, let's get
We're
a
up
picture of
to
some guys
Sunday.
hanging in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, man, I'm glad I don't have that job. Sunday, May 5th.
These are linemen that are really linemen.
May 5th. This is from Quartz.
Can microgrids really bring power to the last billion?
After Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico turned to microgrids for resiliency. Puerto Rico's embrace of microgrids hints at a different energy future. Some of the 1 billion people around the world without electricity may finally get it without ever needing a central power grid.
It's a very interesting article.
It is.
I wish we had the time because I got a lot to say about it. I'd say look this
Look it up.
Look this one up.
Absolutely.
For those who don't know, I'll give you a quick rundown on what a microgrid is.
Yeah.
It's a small network of energy users and energy producers. A network, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In today's centralized power system, the grid radiates. Oh, in today's centralized power system, the grid radiates out in a hub and spoke model. At the center stands a big power plant.
Yeah.
That's what we got now. On the edges are homes and businesses consuming the power. In a microgrid, this system is distributed.
Which
Okay.
means that any given home could be generating power, any given business.
The generatings are all over the place.
All
okay?
over the place.
Power moves between the multiple nodes of the network. Goes from where it's being harvested to where it's being used as it is needed.
Yep.
Supply and demand are balanced locally in real time. It's all done by a computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Our next item is from GoErie.com.
Well, let me move up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we just talked about Pennsylvania, and Erie is in Pennsylvania.
Yep, just barely.
Yeah, just barely, just barely. Erie's climate is changing.
In recent decades, temperatures in Erie, Pennsylvania increased 1.6 degrees to 4.06 degrees. I believe that's probably Fahrenheit.
I think it is, yeah.
They didn't say in the article. Studies show with higher temperatures, there is less winter ice covering the Great Lakes, and more moisture can feed lake effect snowstorms like the ones that dumped over 156 inches of snow
That's
on
13
Erie.
feet, guys.
That's not drifts. That's the average. Over 2 winters ago. You know, it reminds me of a little girl. We had a snowstorm when I was young, living in Illinois.
Yeah.
And Friday school was off, and I went into school the next Monday, and there was a little girl there who said that she was got up after the snowstorm and looked out the window to see, and was horrified to discover that her window had been buried.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
on
yeah.
the second floor.
Yeah.
And
Second floor window was
Yes.
buried. Wow.
And of course, this is the prairie, and Erie is a very similar thing. The wind will just blow constantly in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
So this lake effect snow can blow 150 miles from the lake. You have a long, thin ribbon of deep snow running across New York State or Pennsylvania or whatever. And she went downstairs wondering, she was going to say to her parents, how are we going to get out of here? You know, how do we go to wherever? And she looked out the front window and it was just grass.
Well, one of my friends from high school went to college in Oswego State,
Yeah?
Western New York State. It's
Yep.
on Lake Ontario.
Yes?
It's right on Lake Ontario. And he was telling me that they had to jump out of the second floor window of the fraternity house just to get out of the house.
Yes. Well, okay, we should go on. We've got a picture. Is this time for this picture?
Well, I'm still reading about Erie.
Oh, you're reading about Erie, and I'm all the way to India or something.
Well, we'll move
California. This is from ETEnergyWorld.com.
We got a picture here.
We do.
And I'll get the picture up.
It's a picture that has
We've seen something like this before.
Oh, we see this all the time. This picture has no caption because it had no caption in the publication. There was no credit for who took it, and it's very clear
Well,
what it
it's
is.
an interesting picture
Nice
because
picture.
it's solar and wind in the same
It is,
place.
and it's
same-
not
same-
some artist playing
No,
games.
this is a real location.
Pretty sure.
PG&E Corporation unable to strike deal over renewable energy power contracts.
PG&E Corp. This is Pacific Gas.
Pacific
and
Gas and Electric. It's like
Was-
Los Angeles, right?
California. Just it's,
Well, that's Los Angeles.
yeah. Well, Los Angeles is in California, but this is I don't know how much of the state it has, but it's a large part.
Well, it's definitely the southern part of the state, southwest.
Yeah.
San Diego, Los Angeles, you know,
Yeah.
and it may go up further than that.
I think it goes north of San Francisco.
It could very well.
PG&E was unable to reach a deal with NextEra Energy and other companies with which it has billions of dollars in power contracts. The matter will be decided over the next several weeks by a judge overseeing PG&E's bankruptcy, court documents show. Now, PG&E is going bankrupt because it is unprotected from lawsuits over fires that its equipment caused.
We're talking about old fires too. We're not talking about the ones that just happened.
Yep, even if it has not been found negligent.
That's interesting.
Okay, so they've had these fires in California. PG&E has to make good on them, and I don't know how many billions of dollars this is, but it's more than PG&E is
It's a lot,
worth.
42 billion.
Yeah.
Well,
and
no, that's the contracts.
the contracts. The problem is PG&E signed all these contracts to buy energy at a reduced price, and the contracts are up in the air. They're being reviewed by the bankruptcy court.
Well,
so they could be voided
it
or
seems that what's going on is
renegotiated.
PG&E's got these transmission lines
Yep.
all through the state.
Yep.
Many of them are going right through forests.
Yes.
You know, and they don't pay any attention to them. You know, there's nobody living there. You know, sort of they put the lines in many years ago, and they are now finding out that there's a likelihood, enough of a likelihood to scare them,
Well,
that some of these lines have caused those
yeah,
fires.
you know, Tom, that those lines, when they get hot, get longer.
And they sink.
And they sag.
Yep.
And meanwhile, vegetation under them has been growing up.
Yep.
So you have the line coming down into the vegetation. Sparks get thrown.
And this is what they're afraid of.
Yeah, and I've actually seen that happen in New Hampshire, where the lines were touching a tree, and the tree was, you know, sparks were flying out of it. Okay, our next item is from Forbes, and this is Monday.
It is from Forbes.
May
Wow.
6th.
Well, we don't have a picture yet. That's the next one.
No, that's the next one.
Trump is dissing green energy, but China is financing its growth with its Belt and Road Initiative.
With its Belt and Road Initiative.
We've talked about this already.
We have. China is seizing on an international opportunity that the Trump administration has forsaken, helping other countries expand their domestic infrastructures, potentially with green power plants.
We walk away from something and China jumps right in behind it.
I got news for you.
We've
We're
talked about
walking
this.
away from stuff in the Caribbean, and the result of that is that Caribbean countries are signing military agreements with China.
With China. Yeah.
The Trump administration
Doesn't make sense,
is just
does it?
selling America out because it's for votes in the United States to people who are more concerned about the fact that Puerto Rico got a $91 billion in assistance after Hurricane Maria, or at least that's what Trump says, and that's a figure that's inflated something like 9 times from what it's already received.
A quick rundown on what this Belt and Road Initiative is,
Yeah.
in case people don't know. This is huge.
Yeah, it
It
is.
stretches across 4 continents and 76 countries with a network of railways, pipelines, and highways from Asia to the Middle East and Europe.
Yeah.
The belts refer to railroads, and the roads refer to marine routes and ports. China is also financially positioned to meet the demand for investment in renewable energy projects, especially in light of Trump's dismissal of prevailing climate science.
Now, there's an interesting story on this, that is that China has been pushing coal-burning power plants. And
Well, they got a lot of coal.
they have, well, what they've got is coal technology.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, you can make money selling people.
Selling the technology.
And the coal-burning power plants have to be stopped. But the Chinese have also got something else, which is a lot of solar panels, and they've got a lot of wind turbines. They're big manufacturers of these things. And so the countries that they're going to and saying, buy a coal-burning power plant, are starting to say, no, we want wind turbines. We want solar panels. Give us those. So we have to move on, Tom.
You know, we got some bright people that are talking about our policies and stuff like that. But we're walking away from some of the best ones, and the Chinese are just sitting there and they're laughing.
Yeah, the electric bus is the one that I keep citing.
There you go.
You've got a $50 billion a year industry, and the United States is not interested. Okay, then our next item
got
is
a
from
picture coming
the Insurance Journal. Sorry,
No,
the
The
next
Nation.
picture is from The Nation.
The
and
Nation,
it's-
you got a picture
Go ahead
coming
and
up here. Yeah.
what do you got here?
We got a picture coming up, or the picture is up already.
Yeah, it is.
How carbon farming can help stop climate change in its tracks.
Photosynthesis produces sugar and atmospheric oxygen. Everything that grows here starts with sugar. Soil microbes eat sugar. And the feeding of these soil microbes builds soil and sequesters atmospheric carbon in the ground at a rate previously thought impossible. And what they're saying, of course, is that the soil itself sequesters the carbon, providing that you don't mess with it badly.
That's exactly what they're saying, you know. By the way, this is a very long article. It's very detailed.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yep.
And if you got time, this is one of the ones I think you should look
we
up.
Could spend we could spend
we could
a number of shows on this. We could
Yeah.
have a series of shows on this. Okay.
We got time here.
What?
We got 16 minutes left, and it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. It's not Tuesday yet. We're still
Well,
on
we
Monday.
got one more before
We have
it's Tuesday.
7 items to report. Our next item
Let's
is
move on.
from the Insurance Journal, and I find it interesting that the Insurance Journal is reporting this. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, insurance is a different kind of business, isn't it? I mean, they have to worry about these things because they're the ones that have to pay.
Yeah.
Climate change threatens 1 million species with extinction. This is very scary.
Relentless pursuit of economic growth and impact of climate change have put an unprecedented 1 million species at risk of extinction, scientists said in a landmark report on damage done by modern civilization to the natural world. And the Insurance Journal is writing about this because insurance companies have to make good on economic losses.
That's what I just said. They're the ones that have to pay.
Take agricultural insurance. If the crop doesn't come in, they have to pay for it.
Yep.
And why might the crop not come in? Because there aren't any bees to pollinate things.
Well, that's been happening.
It sure has.
Only a wide-range transformation of the global economic and financial system could pull ecosystems that are vital to the future of human communities worldwide back from the brink of collapse.
Yep.
Business as usual has to end.
We are at the brink of collapse, and we've got people saying, no, you don't need it. You can leave the blindfold on.
Does Trump have a violin?
I think he does, actually. Okay, we're up to
on
Tuesday, May 7th, and we have an item from
another image coming up
Popular
here.
Mechanics.
We've almost seen this image. Almost. Renewables outproduce coal power for the first time ever. And we've talked about this one already.
We have, but it's happened. Last time we talked about it, it was something that they thought might happen. Now
Well,
it's
it
happened.
has happened.
Last month, for the first time, renewable energy sources like wind, solar, and hydro outpaced coal generation, according to data from the Energy Information Administration and an analysis by the Institute of Energy Economics and Financial Analysts. And by the way, I want to point out this analysis is based on what the Energy Information Administration knows, and it doesn't take information on anything smaller than a megawatt, which means that 99% of solar systems aren't included.
Aren't even
in the data.
included.
Yeah.
Well, it's a landmark moment for renewables, according to the article.
Yep.
No one can now say that they can't compete with traditional fossil fuel energy.
Absolutely.
And there's a nice graph illustrating exactly that. As
Yes.
a matter of fact, it's a collection of graphs.
Yes, indeed. Okay, we have an item from Renew Economy, and it's basically very similar to what we just
And
read.
we do. Rising coal and gas costs push Australia's electricity prices to record highs, and they're high to begin with.
They're very high. Electricity prices across much of Australia's main grid rose to record highs in the first quarter of 2019, the Australian Energy Market Operator said. It blames the record heat wave, rising coal and gas costs, and the rising cost of hydropower because of the drought.
There is a drought in Australia, big time drought, been going on for years.
Yeah, and it covers huge amounts of areas of a country that's mostly desert anyway. But it covers the areas where people are growing things, where the local weather is more like you might have in Virginia or someplace like that.
Well, the article has a lot of graphs in it.
Yep.
And the graphs basically are showing that the temperatures are up,
Yep.
rainfall is down,
Yep.
and reduced demand throughout the daylight hours and they suggest because of rooftop PV. So people in Australia are taking it into their own hands and they're buying their own systems.
Well, I want to point out that the prices are rising and demand is going down. And that
Well, the demand is going down because people are producing their own power.
but the price is not respondingly going down. You see, and this
Well, yeah, because
they've got a margin they've got to cover.
The costs aren't changing.
The costs aren't changing. They've got to cover their margins.
And
so if demand goes
market
down,
isn't
they've got
there.
to increase their prices.
Yep.
This is exactly the opposite of what you would expect out of the standard economic model that you have of it's a matter of supply and demand.
But it's totally logical.
It's totally logical if you allow it to penetrate your brain. But nevertheless, what's happening here is the cost of electricity on the grid is going up because people are leaving the grid.
Because it's too expensive.
They're leaving the grid because it's too expensive. Yeah. So more of them are going to leave. In Queensland, which is a huge state, it's a multiple of the size of Texas.
Yeah.
A third of the houses have solar power on the roof.
A third of the house.
A third of the houses.
I would say that's significant.
I'd say it's significant.
And they're all doing it on their own.
And
no subsidy.
What's going to happen is those people in those houses are going to say, hey, if we don't get a good enough net metering arrangement, we're just going to get a battery and go off.
I was just going to say, we're going to buy one of those Tesla Powerwalls.
That's right. Okay, you got something on this?
No more on this thing.
Okay.
Well, I got a quick one here. The March quarter was the hottest ever across much of the country. Yes. Increasing demand and wholesale electricity prices. But demand would have been significantly higher if it were not for the growing penetration of rooftop solar. That's what we just said.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say I'm really, really sorry for the conservative Australian farmers who are now saying we need relief from climate change, and were 10 years ago saying there isn't any climate change.
Yeah.
Because they could get relief, but the relief is not going to make things better for them. Their stuff is only going to get worse, you know, because climate change doesn't stop the moment you get a lower amount of CO2 that goes into the atmosphere. Okay.
We got an interesting picture coming up here.
We have a picture of a person sitting at the edge of Disco Bay,
which is in Greenland.
Greenland.
Okay.
And this is from CNN.
The Arctic permafrost is melting so fast it's damaging the equipment science used to measure it.
Man.
And that's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Permafrost in the Arctic regions is the Arctic region's bedrock. The study says it's melting so fast, it's not just ripping up the landscape, it's wrecking the scientific equipment used to measure it, and it is making climate change even worse for all of us.
Well, the permafrost they're talking about is ground that's frozen year-round.
Yes.
Okay. As the permafrost ground melts, it releases carbon and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Sites in Alaska that a year ago were forests are now covered with lakes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is big time.
Yeah.
Rivers filled with sediment once flowed clear, and scientific equipment that they depend upon sometimes literally swallowed up by the land. So there's some big changes into the far north.
Yep. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, May 8th, and we have an item from Grist.
We certainly do. 1 in 5 Americans now live in places committed to 100% clean power. That's significant.
It is. And we mentioned this earlier today with Washington State, Nevada, New Mexico, California, Hawaii, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico all committed to goals of 100% renewable energy. 1 in 5 Americans lives in places with such a goal. 7 more states have bills to meet that same goal, and those states are Illinois, big state, Minnesota, New York, another big state, New Jersey, Virginia, Florida, and Massachusetts.
And see the next item.
Yeah, and see the next item.
Well, before we do, there's widespread support for getting the electricity sector 100% clean. Mm-hmm. Okay, squeezing the greenhouse gases out of electricity is a clearly achievable goal.
Yes, it is. And
trucking and stuff like that's going to be tougher, but we can do it.
Yeah, I was talking about margins earlier.
Yeah.
We could have half the population in the United States on a system where they're saying we're not going to be buying your product anymore as of some number of years from now. The people who are selling natural gas are going to have to start getting used to the fact that they're going to be selling less natural gas.
Oh, absolutely. Well, right now it's all fracked gas anyhow.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be cheap.
Our next item comes from WHYY, obviously a television or radio station, but it was all over the internet. There were a bunch of different organizations.
Well, this article is about Pennsylvania, but it doesn't have to be about Pennsylvania.
Doesn't have to be about
Pennsylvania is already experiencing disruptions from the warming climate, according to more precipitation and extreme weather. And we talked about that in Erie.
Yeah.
Okay, Pennsylvania ranks second and third for production of natural gas and coal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of ironic.
Got a title for this?
Bipartisan group of legislators reintroduces bills to get Pennsylvania 100% powered by renewable energy.
Now, I want to point out, this is a bipartisan
That's what it said.
thing. It's in Pennsylvania where they have extensive coal mining and fracking going on.
Yeah.
A bipartisan group of state legislators is reintroducing a pair of bills aimed at getting Pennsylvania to have 100% renewable energy by 2050. Senator Tom Killian, a Republican from Chester, said, quote, "It's not just about the environment, it's about jobs," end quote.
Well, it is.
It is.
I'm not going to argue that.
They're going to have better jobs by being 100% renewable than by fracking and having coal.
Well, coal mining is good paying jobs.
Yeah.
Fracking, I don't know what it pays.
I don't know.
Fracking.
I think fracking is extremely unreliable because the companies that have been doing it, they have what is almost a scam going on, where they'll buy fracking leases.
Yeah, you're right. It is almost a scam.
At a 90% discount because they're getting them from a company that went out of business. And then they're going to the market and saying, look, we just bought these leases, which were sold only 2 years ago for $1 billion.
Yeah.
We managed to get them for $50 million. And, what we want to do is get $300 million in bonds so we can develop this land. The development money comes in. They pay themselves very high salaries.
There's nothing left to frack.
I mean, really, it
is a scam.
I think it's a scam. Okay, should we talk more about that?
Well, I think basically with the fact that it's a scam, I think we could talk about that all afternoon, but I don't think we want to.
Okay, we have our last item.
Here, yes? Nice picture.
Isn't that a nice picture? Yeah. I wonder, this Shutterstock, they have what they call, it's CC, which is share-alike arrangement, and different people who take these pictures. I wonder who took that picture. You suppose there was some guy who went up there on a rocket-powered motorcycle?
That's a possibility.
There you go.
Are you trying to say it's a composite?
I think it's probably a composite, yeah.
No, the guy had wings.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Still, it's an interesting picture because it does tell a story.
It does.
We will soon know the exact air pollution from every power plant in the world. That's huge.
Yep. This is from Vox, a non-profit AI firm, that's artificial intelligence, called Watt Time, will use satellite imagery to track air pollution, including carbon emissions, coming from every single power plant in the whole world precisely in real time. And it's going to make the data public.
That's the scary part.
Well, it's
not scary for us.
Yeah, it's about as scary to some people as the fact that Donald Trump's taxes went public.
Yeah. Well, a couple of quick time here. Air pollution is the 5th greatest global mortality risk, which we've talked about.
Yes.
Okay, poor monitoring and gaming of emissions data have made it difficult to enforce pollution restrictions.
Yep.
So we can put out the laws, but we can't do anything about it because we don't have the data.
Yeah.
If anyone in the world can pull up a list of the dirtiest power plants in their area, it eliminates one of the great barriers to action.
Right.
Okay, once the public knows what polluters are up to, it stops letting them get away with it.
And this means that organizations like the Sierra Club and Greenpeace and whoever else can look at a power plant and say, the emissions that you're saying
That's exactly what it means.
Are not what's going on. And that's true whether the power plant is in
Anywhere
New Mexico or in Mongolia,
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world. And these satellites, some of the things that they can do are really remarkable. They use, I think it might be something similar to, or it might actually be LIDAR. You know what LIDAR is?
It's like radar, but with light.
It's like radar but with light, and you can measure distances using LiDAR pretty accurately. And they're using LiDAR to measure ocean level rise. So they can tell from these satellites, they're using LiDAR or something like it. So they can tell from the satellites exactly how high on average the oceans are, and they can tell you that in this.
So they know.
They know. There's, I've heard people say no. These cities that are running into trouble, it's because the land is subsiding.
Yeah. They turn around and say, no, we've measured the ocean.
They've measured the ocean. It's not some imprecise thing that comes from harbor buoys. And in this case, they're able to measure the amount of pollution that comes out of these plants. So,
well, once the public knows what polluters are up to, it stops letting them get away with it.
Yep. I'm going to change that thing so that you can put that up. Have a perfectly lovely week, and I think we should wave goodbye to everybody because that's the important thing at the end of the show. See you next time.
Have a good week.